Og man kan se den. Yes. Okay. And I also think people actually hear me already. So let's just try like this. Okay. Yes. Oh shit. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, now I don't hear you.
Nice. All right. Yeah. Sorry about that, everyone. Went a lot smoother the last time. Okay. So, we just see here.
I think we're having some audio delay, some sort of loop.
Do you hear yourself, or what? Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, we should wait maybe just like a couple of minutes.
Yeah. But you don't hear yourself, do you?
No, now I muted the stream and I'm only
right.
listening to
Okay.
our chat, so it should be fine now.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and paste the new link again too, right?
Yeah. There we go. All right. That's cool. I think people are slowly making their way over here.
Right.
That's cool.
So, we're just gonna get very slowly started with what's going on here. So this is the cooking show cheated version. So we already assembled one, and yeah, it's this one we had to use a few hacks, and I hope I can avoid some of them in the new one. But yes, this is the new beta version 0.1, and here we have the old one. So the main change in the design is that we've now got two boards, and the LEDs and the screen are mounted on the top board, which mainly means that we can use these SMD LEDs instead of the through-hole bigger LEDs we used in the last one, which had to be hand soldered by us, at least, because for now
They
we're
are
using for now
yeah,
we're
they're
using
tiny.
The old ones are let's see if they are the pins are extremely close, and it's very easy to accidentally short one of them, and it just takes a long time. You have to cut off all the leads and all of that. So
how many LEDs are there? 40 something?
54 now, I think, because we added more buttons for the beta than on the prototype.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's I think the reason that sort of made the why we ended up doing the two boards. I mean, it has a bunch of good things about it, but it was because we had to make the screen board by ourselves. Um, we we getting the screens from China and then making a board by ourselves, which this is our own board that we succeeded in making. But we thought, when we're already making this board and we have to order this as a separate board, why not just make it as big as the entire OTTO and just mount other things on it as well?
Yeah, that was exactly what
Yeah.
we did. I just
The
um,
supply of the screens, um, I mean, it's not easy, but it's comparatively okay. But getting screens also mounted on a PCB
yeah, the
is
on the prototype we found some just on AliExpress some screens on a board similar to this one, um, but a few months after when we were working on the beta, those weren't available anymore. So
yeah, they
um,
seem to go in and out of stock with like every 3 months, and that's um, as this is becoming a bigger project, we need some reliability in sourcing stuff.
yeah, definitely,
So this was our way of dealing with that.
yeah. Um, all right.
So so yeah, that's kind of cool. I guess if anyone has questions, just feel free to write them in the chat. But I think maybe other than that, we should just talk about what we have to solder on the
Right.
new one.
So let me just start by getting out the boards. Considering I spent the whole day preparing, I'm extremely underprepared. But so this is the. Let me just get rid of that. So this is the what we call the main board. And it holds the MCU, and this is the audio circuit, and we have some power management and various. I think this is mostly MIDI, and then this is where the Raspberry Pi is mounted, and all of the encoders and all of the keys.
Speaking of audio, I think we're a bit on the low side. Can you increase that somehow?
I don't actually think I can. I can increase myself, but I don't think I can increase yours. No.
All right, I'll just speak louder.
Right. Okay. And so the way we're doing production here, the whole point of the way we're doing the project right now, is we're trying to make it as cheap as possible to produce low quantities, partly so we don't have to pump a lot of money into it from the beginning, or look for outside investment and all that, but also because it helps us make sure that the design is I mean, we can do some small adjustments between iterations, and we can make sure that we start by just selling like a few dozen, so they're easier to support, and it's easier to help people if there are issues, and fix all the bugs in the software, because there will definitely be loads of those. And part of making it cheap in small quantities, for us, has been to use JLC to produce the PCBs, because they do very cheap assembly, but only of a certain selection of parts, and only on one side, and obviously only the SMD parts. So that's why we're gonna have to hand solder some parts ourselves, and it's at this point we've mostly gotten it down to the to just the through hole parts, and we've gotten the through hole parts mostly down to only snap in parts, which you'll see in a bit are a lot more fun to work with than normal through hole parts. And largely, largely using the auxiliary boards with the LEDs in the screen has helped a lot in making this possible. And
Yeah.
speaking of
So
which,
since we do this in two boards now, we can of course have one side of each board assembled. Does increase the cost a little bit, but it cuts down immensely on the amount of work we have to do.
Yeah.
So the back side of the main board is assembled, and the top side of the auxiliary board is assembled by machines.
Exactly. And yeah, sadly, we're not gonna be able to really power it on at the end of the stream because there's still a lot of work going on with the firmware. I think you'd all be as surprised as I was with how much work that is. Yeah, but I think I got some backlight out of the other one earlier when I finished soldering that, so that means at least that the power circuit is working, which is great because that's one of the things that we designed from scratch for this version, because the power management chip we used on the old one was extremely expensive and not available at JLC. So now the question is, I think, mostly where to start.
Probably the main board is the most.
Yeah, the only thing is that I probably want to solder the smallest. So there's this 50 pin.
Yeah, I was just about to say
connector for the screen. I probably don't want to do it first, but I don't want to do it at the end either. So maybe do some stuff on the main board and then come back to that.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the way to do it.
Gotta warm up a bit first for that 50-pin connector.
Yeah, Wallop says, what background do you guys have? PCB Fab is intimidating to an outsider. Yes, it is. And we're both mainly software people. I'm studying computer science and Jonathan studied physics. Yeah.
I think our background when it comes to hardware was, well, for my part, making guitar pedals, which is, let's just say, quite a bit simpler than this.
Yeah, and I played around with that at some point, but I don't think I ever actually got anything working. So yeah, basically this is our background with with designing hardware. And
learning by doing.
Yeah, and a lot of this design is originally by Bastian, who's here as Spatz, and
Der Badezusatz.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
the whole name.
Yeah, and then we've slowly we've done most of the iterations on that since somewhere in the beta period, and that was extremely nice being able to kind of slowly start maintaining a system that was already set up and starting out by making small changes and stuff like that. It was extremely helpful. Yeah, I'm gonna try to stop talking as much and start doing some soldering, and then maybe you can do some talking if you want to.
Yeah, sure. I have one in the chat saying he's got to run. I think we'll make sure that people can check the recording out later.
Yeah, provided there are no more issues.
Yeah. Let's hope.
Um,
Yeah, it's. I guess we want to do the smallest components first.
yeah.
The small. I think we have two SMD parts that needs to be soldered.
There are a few. I think most of them are in this box. So there's this Zener diode. I think it is. And let me just see here. Not what I wanted to change. Something like that, maybe. Oh, nice. Yeah. So that goes.
Oh yeah, soon.
That goes somewhere around right there. Now the question is, I have two soldering irons here because I just bought a new tip for mine recently, and it's already slowly disintegrating. So I borrowed my dad's as well, but yeah.
Need to buy higher quality stuff if it's already breaking.
Yeah, it was. I did think that deal was a bit too good to be true.
It usually is.
All right. So.
Yeah. While you get started, one of the things that I like about this iteration with having it split in two boards is that it allows us to test things as soon as we're making like a couple in a day, or 5 autos in a day. We can test all the auxiliary boards by themselves.
Yeah.
So I had a chance to look to see some friends of mine, their startup, where they're also doing hardware, and in their assembly room, they just have sort of an assembly line going on, but it's just like a row of 6 computers. So they do one part, they test one part of the hardware on each station. They solder in some components, and then they have a bunch of Raspberry Pis lying there, and they just hook them up, and they're just they have one program on the Pi, and that just they run that, and then they get a true or false out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We
that's
definitely need
that's
to.
what I want to do with this at some point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Bastian is
This.
saying that Steven really deserves a shout out as well.
Oh,
That is
yeah,
that is true.
definitely.
We we would not be be here if it wasn't for Steven.
Yeah.
In general, I mean, it's this project, even though the two of us might be the one spending the most time and also money on it right now, it wouldn't have been possible without being a community effort.
Yeah, some people sometimes, especially like just relatives and such, ask me why I decided to make it open source, and and I think it's very easy because otherwise it would just have been another project that kind of started, and after a few weeks or maybe months, I'd have given up.
Yeah, as the Hungarians say, the attic is full of good ideas.
Yeah.
At least I heard that. That's a Hungarian expression. I might be wrong. So these small dip switches here are for the power management, correct?
So these two are for configuring the boot. They go directly to the boot pins of the MCU, which configures whether it starts from disk or from RAM or like that. And I think really we don't ever need to start. Or it's not called disk. Sorry, flash. Don't really need to start from anything other than flash usually, but It's the only thing where we've actually used it so far is for flashing. I think you need to start from RAM or one of the other two options to flash over UART. And before we were sure we got the JTAG connection working, we flashed over UART instead. So
Right. Yeah.
mostly there's nothing to be done there. But then the other one is quite useful for that's so the MCU controls power the power rails of the LEDs and the Raspberry Pi, and then you can use this dip switch to override that, so you can force them to receive power, which is also useful for development. Didn't I have two of these dip switches, by the way? Well, oh right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, also the MCU is also doing a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to input, doing like pulling the encoders and the buttons, and basically, you're as a user, you're mostly interacting with that one.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's so one is so Wallop is asking if there's anything we need help with right now, funding, firmware development, UX people. If there's any kind of ticketing system with open work items, and
Anyone
I
has
think
a
at least the sorry.
If anyone has a cloning machine, I could really use that.
Yeah, just more hours in a day.
Um,
I think so. Of course we have we have some sort of ticketing system when it comes to the main core code.
yeah, we have some.
That's on the main repository.
Yeah,
but
some issues on
that
GitHub.
There are issues on GitHub, but the main thing has been that there's, at least right now, there's been so much hardware development and we have not really found a way of letting that, putting that out in the open source sphere. It's too.
The issue is that
we haven't really found a good way.
Yeah, there aren't that many different places to approach, and there aren't that many things where it makes a lot of sense for multiple people to approach it at once. For example, I've been fighting a lot with the I2C on the MCU because either I haven't understood the protocol or the implementation on the in the STM library is a bit weird, and I think it's a combination. So yeah. Currently, I'm working on that, and it's just a lot of fighting the MCU code and fighting the Raspberry Pi kernel drivers and stuff like that. And a lot of these things are bottlenecks for actually continuing the other the other things.
That's the main thing. We haven't really found a good way of how to get around this huge bottleneck that getting a working beta is. It's a huge bottleneck for everything else. Which is, you might argue that it's bad project management
and
on our part.
Maybe wouldn't be wrong by arguing that, but
that has some truth to it.
But also there's Bastian says the dip switch. Are you just talking about the top one? Because I think you might be right about the top one. The lower one, I checked at least that I soldered them the same way around at the last beta version, but it's not impossible that I've just soldered them the wrong way around on both. Anyway, doesn't really matter much, but yeah. Good point. I think so. That's actually all the SMD parts to be soldered on the main board. And fast. I think. And that's the big difference here, especially when we get to the snap-in type parts. Those are
Hmm.
a lot more fun to solder. So this
Yeah.
this is also a test of how long it actually takes to solder
Yeah,
this.
it's good to get
Um,
a bit of a sort of an idea of how long it takes. The reason that there are only 4 SMD components and that it's so fast, I will say that's because of I think the picture we put on Instagram a short while, like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, about just us two sitting in a spreadsheet,
yeah.
and just looking at what kind of components does JLC have, how can we make it so that the easiest components to hand solder are the ones, and yeah, it's just so many different things, but I think it was that work has been well spent.
Yeah, definitely.
We're reaping the rewards now.
Um, I had one of these connectors left somewhere, but I'm just gonna take one from the new package because I'm not gonna zoom out and show how much of a mess this desk is. Oh, I think that was visible in the Instagram image.
Also, that's a point of pride.
Okay.
So this thing, yeah,
Right.
green
Let's
connector,
see if we can do this.
50 pins, and we're using 6 of them.
Which has the advantage that it doesn't matter that a lot of them, like all of these, can be shorted. And we made the same mistake here, which that we made the last time, and I thought I'd fixed it, but I'd forgotten to properly fix it. So all of these pads are connected right here in the center. I think you can probably tell in the video as well.
Yeah, you can tell in the image.
And they're all ground pads, so it's no issue. It's just hard to make it. It's just hard to solder it very nicely because like the heat is just getting spread out amongst all of those pads, and it just turns into a giant blob. But yeah, let's. Right.
By the way, the same people with the startup, I heard that he told me they made the infamous mistake of these FPC connectors, getting a whole production run done, and then it was flipped around.
Yeah.
One of the connectors. It's classic. It's a classic one.
Yeah. So I've kind of found with these that the easiest way to do it is to kind of align them just at the end, because what tends to happen is that if a solder blob kind of if a connection starts between two of the pins, it's a lot easier to remove it if it can't connect to the pads underneath. Now I'm just trying to make sure it's fixed before I actually start soldering the pins, and I think that was pretty good placement. Yeah, actually sure. Let me just. It's also actually very useful to have the camera here because I have it right in front of my face, so I can just use it as kind of a microscope.
Oh, there are more zoom levels? I thought it was just.
Oh yeah,
More.
I have a slider.
Oh, that's
Sadly,
cool.
it's a slider that doesn't slide, but yeah, I think that works. Okay. Also, I can't find the autofocus setting anymore. But okay, and it's flux time.
Wallop is asking about the camera setup. I think it's just your phone,
So
and then
I
there's a.
yeah I started setting this up. I think at around 12 o'clock today.
That's definitely an appropriate amount of flux.
Um, and yeah, it's my phone on a taped to a mic stand, like a desk lamp type of mic stand. And then the worst part was trying to find an app that actually worked for streaming to my computer, and then I'm streaming from there. And I think at this point, what I should have maybe actually done is to just stream directly from the phone. But when I figured that out, I'd already spent the whole day trying to make this work. So yeah, I think that was maybe just a bit too much flux. The issue is if it gets into the connector, it's really hard to clean up. And there, damn it.
Oh shit.
Right. And this. Okay. I think that might work. Okay. Something like that. Let's try it.
I feel like when we're doing this more, like several boards in a row, maybe this is the first thing should be done. Because if you fuck up the board,
yeah,
it's
definitely the first thing to do on the auxiliary board.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the first bridge. That's not a big issue. I can nearly catch it. Okay, I might just bring in some wick afterwards. I may regret this, but feel free to give any tips.
I have to say, I mean, who's that guy who does like VGA chip soldering on YouTube?
Oh, Louis Rossman,
Yeah.
the Apple repair guy. I've watched a lot of that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to be a hater, but you're not quite there yet.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not.
Yeah, while I was saying a wedge tip would be good for this.
Yeah, or at least just a tip that isn't already broken after literally being used for half an hour or so. But also that, yes. So, okay, I'm just...
Yeah, this is some variant of drag soldering.
That is to some extent what I'm attempting, yes.
Yeah. We'll get there.
Right, and okay, I think I'm just gonna see if I can add a bit more flux.
But yeah, we had the issue with the bridges between the pads on the last beta iteration. Well, and it was, and we fixed it manually. But then I think at the very end, when the KiCad did the reflow of all the
No, I just always viewed it in the no copper fills mode, because you can't really see anything in the copper fills mode, and I forgot that the reason they were connected was the actual copper fills. So I just added manual connections and forgot to remove the automatic connection. I think that was the main issue.
But we just need to configure the copper fill so it doesn't. I
Yeah,
think I tried that once, but I ended up with like way too big tolerances.
I think I already got it working. I just set all the individual pads for the all of these pins to not connect to copper fills at all.
Yeah,
So
that would be the way.
That helped. Okay. Yeah, and then usually I lose one or two of these pads. Yeah, like I just did, because they are not connected to anything.
So they just fall off.
Yeah, basically. Okay. I think otherwise this is not actually that bad. My approach is kind of to try to, in the beginning, just add some solder and then come clean it up afterwards. I think that is, at least to some extent, the way to go. Yeah, but see, it's nearly impossible for me to even just get this solder to melt properly, because it's just one big thermal blob.
Yeah. I mean, it should work fine. It just doesn't look that good.
Yeah, definitely. It shouldn't be an issue. I mean, probably it's actually even better secured in there, but it definitely doesn't look as nice. And there goes my tip.
Tip is broken?
Yeah, basically. It's
gotta go down and just get like the best brand, and then
yeah, but I think the main issue is that the soldering iron is awful. So
yeah, the soldering iron sucks.
It's hard to get a good tip for a bad iron. Okay, let me just see if I can get this to focus. Come on. Yep, there we go. Okay, so it's kind of hard to tell if I. Okay.
Yeah, the light is better there.
So there's definitely a bridge right there. But I don't think these are actually bridged. I think that's just the reflection of the flux. Yeah,
but yeah, there's one bridge you need to fix.
Yeah. Come on. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, just more flux always solves the problem. So I guess after this there is it's just a whole bunch of buttons that we have to do. That's very easy and very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, then the
Also,
encoders,
yeah.
but that's basically the same thing.
Yeah, they're just bigger buttons, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you mentioned it quickly that in the beginning that they all snap in with their legs.
Yeah.
You don't have to hold them from the other side.
Yeah, because
which makes it so much more easy.
That's the main issue usually with through-hole parts, that you have to put them in either one at a time or just you kind of have to make sure they're properly aligned before you can.
Properly fastened when you turn the board over.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's another thing about the through-hole LEDs was that while they wouldn't fall out, they had like a millimeter or two of give.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was all getting them all to line up properly against the board was It's a real hassle.
I think this looks mainly okay. Obviously there's the blob kind of in the middle, but that's all ground pins. I think I'm gonna have to remove the flux to tell if there's still any issues. Right, so actually I'm probably just gonna start off like this instead.
You have some alcohol there or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah. Should would be cool if we can light up the LEDs at the end. Will they just light up random colors or something if we?
I don't think so. Maybe I haven't prepared a build of the firmware that runs the LED test. Maybe it depends on the time. I think. No, they won't light up on boot anymore. We fixed that.
Okay. Well, the one time where it could have been a feature, except for a bug.
Yeah.
Instead of a bug.
Okay. Let's see here. Focus. Yep. It's kind of hard to tell up in this end.
Yeah, the reflection is making it look like there's a lot of bridges, but I don't think so.
Zoom in even further. Yeah.
Just the reflection, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well. We just.
Anyways, yeah, if anyone wants a Sudoku style puzzle on a Saturday morning, I invite you to go look up the data sheets for these screens and try and design one of these screen boards.
Yeah, they are.
That's a fun challenge of deciphering what exactly words mean.
Yeah. Right, and those two are bridged there, but that's okay. And then I think that looks alright, and a lot of things that would be useful to invest in.
Well, was saying they gave you that we got data sheets, which is basically cheating, which I mean I kind of agree with. I mean you're halfway done, but I mean being 20 kilometers away from the finish line in a marathon is also halfway done. Doesn't mean that it's easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
See if, and I think. See, now I probably got some. Yeah. So that's an issue, or it might be an issue.
What's an issue? It looks like it opens up fine.
Yeah, but there's a bit of flux in there, which might mean there's flux inside the actual connector, which is a bit of pain to clean. But I think I'm just not gonna bother with that right now. Yeah, I think I'm gonna say this is okay. But yeah, it's really hard to tell if those are fine, but I think so. Let's let's go with this. Yep.
Yeah, let's go with this, and then we can always come back to it.
Then I'm gonna go back to the main board, and I'm gonna zoom out a few kilometers because
I was just reminded at how much you're zoomed in right now.
Yeah,
the pins are so small on that part. It's
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just
now we're out in
I,
full size.
I'd been looking through the camera at it while I was soldering it, basically, and I also took it up just to look at it in
Mm.
person and realized that I could not tell any of these legs apart, basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's 50 pins with a pitch of 0.5 millimeters, which probably means the actual distance between them is like 0.2 millimeters or 0.1 or something like that. Yeah, it's
By the way, I haven't had one of the new betas in my hand yet. Are they? How are the how are the tolerances for the holes for all the buttons
so
in the
we
auxiliary
can.
board?
Oh right.
Do they wobble or?
So
I
that's
mean,
that's
they're
kind
all
of
gonna
a.
go through another board, the front plate that has all the nice graphics. So it
So,
doesn't really matter.
so there are some issues somewhere. Some of these do get a little bit close to the edge, and when they do, it stops them from tilting when you press them, which in theory I think is good, but it makes them feel a bit different. So maybe we should look into adding just adding a tiny little bit to the radius of these cutouts.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it might also work fine without. And
Yeah.
um, right, okay. Yeah, and also I think a part of it is I have to be a bit more careful when snapping these in to make sure they are properly aligned. Because I think some of them are a little bit skewed. This one actually broke this key totally because I accidentally soldered it without pressing it down completely, and
Uh,
then in trying to fix it later, I broke it. But that's why
right.
we have test boards. Another thing to consider is whether we should try to add the two different kinds of encoders and buttons we have in this one.
Yeah, could be good.
Um,
Do an A/B test. So we've
yeah,
been talking a lot about when it comes to buttons. There's yeah, we've had a lot of talks about this, but right now going with these tactile buttons, the big question there is what's the proper activation force? And we went from the lowest to the largest we could get on this
yeah,
one, which seems to be a bit maybe too much, and the um, the in between value would be the best.
yeah.
So we're gonna try that out.
That's the way I'm leaning at least. So and then we have I think we have I think I have 8 of them here um, of the middle values. Um, they were sold out at JC the last time, so I hope that's not permanent. Probably isn't. I think they were just sold out. So I think these are the next logical step.
Yeah,
So these are the the audio and MIDI GRS jacks. I'm just gonna do
yeah.
something
So we
like
have
this.
audio in, line out, headphone out. Then we have MIDI in, MIDI out, and MIDI through.
Yeah. I'm just gonna do something like this.
Yeah. So yeah, that was what we've been talking about with buttons. For the encoders, I mean, there's even more things to think about. So we used to have encoders with detents, but we've recently moved away from that because a lot of the a lot of the interactions you're doing with the on the auto are you're moving you're
Continuous.
changing continuous values basically. So it's
Yeah.
just weird to have detents, and we decided that it might be less weird to not have detents on the discrete values than it would be the other way around. So we're going with detentless encoders right now.
Yeah.
And then there's also been some development in trying to find which ones feel nice. They also have a button, so what's the right activation force for that? And just trying to find encoders that basically feel nice. Doesn't feel grainy when you're moving it, that
Yeah,
sort of
some
thing.
of them, when we got, so we're using, up until now we've been using Alps EC11, I think the series is called. And we were using those for the detent, the version with detents, and we switched to the detentless version, and those the ones without detents felt a little bit like kind of grainy, as if there was a bit as if there was a tiny bit of sand in them or something. Or at least you could feel you could feel the mechanism a little bit. It wasn't that bad. And then the other issue with them is that they are a bit too tall. So the encoder caps kind of stick out on above the front plate. They hover like
Yeah, they have like
3
like
millimeters.
yeah,
Yeah,
which doesn't sound like much, but it's quite noticeable. We want them
yeah,
to be quite flush. Um, but yeah, then we tried some Born's encoders, which are exactly the right height. They look amazing when you put on the colored encoder caps, but they just feel terrible.
yeah. And it's actually kind of weird. Or at least that was my first reaction when I received them last Friday, I think. They just, coming from the Alps, at least they're a lot lighter in the rotation. The bones are a lot lighter. The Alps actually have a lot of need a lot of turning force, which I think at least usually feels nicer and higher quality.
Feels
Um,
premium.
yeah, and and the and then the Alps actually have even more of the sand feeling, and they're a bit wobbly, and yeah. Um,
Just no
but
winning
the
sometimes.
Alps, yeah, yeah, because the bones will definitely they would look a lot better, and it's kind of one of these things that makes some difference in when you just look at the device. It just looks a bit,
How professional does it look?
yeah. But I think it's to a point where we probably can't really defend using that instead,
No.
and the feel is still probably more important. But I
Yeah,
think on this one we're gonna try to. I might just put only. Yeah, I'm gonna put only the Born's encoders in this one. Um, yeah, and then we can try some A/B testing. Might also just have been a quick
yeah. There might
first reaction.
there's usually a bit of variation within the batches. So yeah, sometimes
Yeah,
you
that
just
as
get
well.
a bad one. What's the encoder that's on the deluge? Deluge.
I think actually I
Those feel
thought
nice.
it was I thought it was the I think it's the Alps ones. I know they're available. You can buy replacement encoders from their official site.
Yeah.
I thought I had some power switches in here, so we can just check, because yeah. But I think they're Alps. They're definitely green.
Yeah.
I remember that. And same size, so it's the out. What did I do with the? Oh, they've been sitting just in front of me the whole time because when I found them a few minutes ago, I thought I better keep them out. Right, so this is the power switch, and it's a bit annoying because it doesn't snap in, and it has very short pins.
Yeah,
but it was especially annoying the last time because I forgot to solder it at this point. I think actually maybe it should be soldered as the first through-hole part on that side. But soldering it after the USB socket and the DC jack, it's
because they're much taller.
Yeah, it makes it very hard to align it properly. I think this works though. As long as this tip doesn't actually break off, it's actually nicer to work with it slightly curved.
Yeah, the slightly bent tips can be quite good.
So that worked. Yeah, that's another reason why I wanted to do the connector early, because if the tip breaks, I'll have to use the larger tip on the other iron.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and I think that right, and there's these. These are the next step. They're capacitors for coupling caps for the audio circuit, I think. That's the point.
Like any proper audiophile, we're of course using film capacitors for audio applications, as you're supposed to.
Yeah. And these are a bit easier because we don't really care how well aligned they are because they're not visible to the user.
I was just I think the next after we validate this these boards, see if they get working. So the next step will be we'll be designing the metal box. I mean, we have a lot of it already, but we need the final dimensions, and we need the positions of all the plugs that go outside. So we need to make make those holes, the cutouts in the box. Yeah.
Yeah, and and then in conjunction with that, we need the front plate.
Yeah.
So that's assuming this all works. That's probably the next step.
If these are working and we make and we're not going to make any say changes to the outside, that any structural changes or anything, then we can basically start. We can get a first version of the box made, and we can have 5 front plates made, or 20 front plates.
Yeah.
If we feel like it's done, and then I think like within quite short time we should hopefully have a working beta in our hands.
Yeah. Yeah, the main bottleneck currently is definitely the software and the MCO firmware. Which is difficult because it kind of requires you to have an actual prototype to work on. Which is why that's one point where it would be nice to have some help. See you, Bastian. But yeah, there's not much. It's hard to do anything really without the prototypes.
Yeah.
I'm hoping Steven gets some time at some point, maybe over the summer, because he has one of the prototypes, and
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think he I think he to some extent knows a lot about NCU firmware. At least he knows more than me in that he's actually written some before.
I think you might sometimes do it for a living, so I think.
Yeah, it's also.
It'll be good to get back to the software. I have to say I'm missing C++ at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I as always have some ideas for changes to make to the property system,
Yeah, of course.
but I think I'm gonna have to wait.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when I joined the project, like, I don't know, half a year into like its early beginnings,
Yeah, something like that.
I remember one of the first things you were talking about was, oh, I have this great idea for like the property system, like, and then that's great. And then half a year later, you have it, and then you haven't been talking about anything else than changes you want to make to it since then.
And
It's
I think I also have actually rewritten it like 5 times.
oh yeah, definitely. It's your white whale.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. So
Cool. All the
all the parts
cool
on
parts
that
on that
side,
side.
except these small headers, but we're gonna come back to them because I actually ordered the wrong ones in basically all aspects. I, for some reason, ordered a single row instead of
Oh,
double row, and they are too wide to put two of them next to each other. So for the other one, I had to cut off the plastic on one side.
oh Jesus.
And
Okay.
then also the plastic. We need ones where the black plastic part is only 1 millimeter tall, and these are 1.8 or something like that. So it's a bit too tall. So it doesn't really fit.
That's weird. Weren't we looking at the data sheets when we were buying them?
Yeah, or at least we were looking at the data sheet when we picked them originally, but then I think we forgot to write the part down, and there was some issue like that. So
Sounds like a mistake that we would make.
yeah. Okay, so the black ones, the ones with the here is so these are the three activation force, the three versions with varying activation force. So this is the lowest activation force, the blue one. The black one has the middle, and the brown ones are the one that we have a lot of, and those are the highest activation force. So we have 8 of these middle activation force, and I'm going to add some of those, and then I'm going to fill the rest with the high activation force.
Yeah. And I will just say again that we're always open for new ideas for these buttons. I think we're going with.
I think we're always open for new ideas. Period. But
yeah, but these buttons, we're going with tactile buttons for now because they are, they're very easy to solder and handle, and they're cheap, and they're usually always available.
And they are the low profile as well as another.
Yeah,
part of
they
it.
are also very small. So we had a version previously with the low profile mechanical keyboard buttons, which I personally like the feel of, but they add, it's a lot sourcing those keys just from one place, and it takes a long time for them to get here, and they're quite expensive as well. Is a hassle right now, and it's
And
we probably will revisit this at some point, but right now we're going with these ones.
I
In any
think
case, I
the
mean, for
most, uh, yeah, I think the most likely case is that we're gonna at some point switch to a silicon mold and silicon keys.
I mean,
Um,
that would be great. I mean,
I,
but that's
I think using mechanical keys instead is not really an option. It adds a lot of height as well. Even the low profile ones are a lot taller, which probably would mean that we'd need a third board. Um, and
mm,
yeah, so that's
the well, I'm just asking if
yeah.
if sourcing is a big issue. I will say we spend a lot of time trying to optimize the sourcing, so we have to order from as few people as possible, just because every single supplier as it adds time and also shipping cost, of course. We do run into the occasional minimum quantity, and then we have to order a different part. Um, it's not too bad. It wasn't. It's not a part. It's not a problem for those mechanical keys. That's not the. It's not because of a minimal minimum. Uh,
But they are like I think they're like $3-4 a piece.
how many?
The mechanical keys,
How many? How much did you say?
it's like $3-4. I think something like that.
Like like per key?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember it was yeah. So I
which
mean, at
is
that point, they're it's a lot.
yeah, it goes it I think it goes way outside our budget. Something that would, for example, we could probably get some nice and low profile encoders, um, if we were able to buy 1,000 at a time or so.
Yeah, that's
Then
true.
there are other brands that that have very high quality encoders, in a lot of different sizes, etc. Um, but yeah, that's, I mean, this hardware is also designed to use pretty basic parts.
Yeah, I think that's the exercise right now is getting a working. I mean, it is a beta.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, so we're gonna do that for now. But yeah, getting these silicone uh, molded buttons would be great. Um, I'm a big fan of the buttons on the oh, what's it called, the Novation circuit. I know they're not for everyone. They're a bit polarizing. They don't really have any they don't really have any travel.
the
But they are pressure sensitive,
the pads.
velocity sensitive. Yeah,
Oh right, yeah. Actually, the weirdest thing about them is that they're not pressure sensitive. They're just velocity sensitive,
yeah, they're just
um,
velocity sensitive. Yeah,
which surprised me. Um,
yeah. I think they must be custom made.
yeah, they're probably just using like two connectors, or two activation areas on one silicon pad or something.
Yeah,
Be my
sounds reasonable.
guess, and then they can measure the time between them. Where I think usually people actually have resistance per.
Yeah, they have some sort of FSRs or something.
Yeah, something like that.
It's although the function keys as they are right now, where they only go. I mean, they're tactile keys, but they only go up like a couple of millimeters, like 2 millimeters from the front plate.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's a solution that works. I mean, that's really. I think we succeeded there in making something that is extremely basic, but the design is pretty good, and it works the way it should
Yeah,
be. It allows us to put in a lot more buttons than your regular synthesizer of this size
yeah,
because they're so compact.
Yeah,
which I
and
like.
we
I
and
mean,
we get the backlit icons as well.
yeah,
The,
for
the
sure.
buttons have RGB
Backlit icons.
backlit
Are you
icon
kidding me?
switches.
Eat your heart out, Electron.
Yeah. Okay, I think that is mostly it. Look, there's, I don't know if you can actually see it. There's one of them. Okay, I think I'm just gonna have to be a bit careful when soldering them. They are actually
One of them a bit weird.
there was just one that, so this one for example, I don't know if you can really tell, but it kind of falls out.
Oh, right.
So yeah, I have to be a bit careful. Okay. Right.
Yeah, we have oh, another thing with this beta iteration is that we're adding a bunch more keys. I think we mentioned it earlier that we have more LEDs. That's because we have more function keys. We
Yeah,
are
since not
adding
since the last beta, but since the prototype. Yeah.
oh, since the yes, that's correct. So we're adding basically what amounts to yeah, just a bunch of function buttons for screens that we have not decided um, what we're gonna do with yet. We're just leaving the possibilities open. But we needed, I think, one or two extra buttons that we wanted to have, and then we just to
Yeah.
make the workflow even more flat. And then we thought, why not just add a whole row? And so now we have a couple of buttons named A, B, C, D, and E, I think.
I think there's an F as
So
well. I think there's
is there
6
an F?
unassigned keys. So maybe that
Yeah, yeah.
changed.
I think no, I think it's 5. Anyways, but yeah. So we've left ourselves some space to be able to make it yeah, make more functionality later,
Yeah.
which is always good. I mean, the cool thing is that yeah, we can just then you can just get a new front plate when we decide what to do with it, basically.
Yeah, because the icons are in the front plate. And the front plate is just another PCB. We have I do have a prototype here that I could show at some point, but I think I'm just going to focus on the soldering. But yeah, the front plate is just another PCB which has areas where the LEDs can shine through, and those are the icons for the
Yeah. So and a cool thing that JLC recently changed is that they went from a, let's say, a sort of a kitschy, glossy matte, glossy black PCB to this very, very cool matte black PCB style. No extra cost. So we're using that, which gives it a really, I think, a really cool look now.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Wall is
Can't
asking
wait
if
to.
oh, sorry.
No, yeah.
No, it's about the display. Get a question if it's touch sensitive. And I think we specifically asked for one that wasn't. We could get one that was touch sensitive
We can
for
the
for the
same
same
display
price
is
almost.
available with the same panel is available with with a touch panel on it as well. Let's see if you can see this, but this is what I wanted to make sure to avoid. This button here is lifted a little bit above the board. Right. So the back one, that one. So I'm gonna have to, which is why only soldered one leg of all of them, because then I should be able to just.
But we're not using the yeah, even with, if we previously had a pressure sensitive screen, but we weren't using it for anything, and I don't think we have any intention of doing it.
Yeah, and an issue with them is that the touch overlays are the touch overlays are kind of gray and not fully transparent. So they actually make the image look a lot worse. Yeah, this is a TS100. A lot of people find it amazing, including Adam Savage, and they are wrong.
Wow,
Basically my thesis. Yeah, I've this is my dad's. I had one of my own and thought it was broken because it gets hot in like 2 seconds or something, but I just find it doesn't actually get properly hot, even though I set it to 400 degrees, which is insane. So yeah, I think for just especially for the SMD soldering, I don't find it very good. But the tips are nice, and they don't break like the ones I bought for the other one, and it's extremely cheap, and it shuts off automatically when you don't use it for a few minutes, and then powers back on when it moves, because there's a freaking accelerometer in it.
And also the fact that it's wireless is a pretty nifty thing.
It's not wireless,
isn't it?
That's one.
I don't know. Oh, that was never in frame. So you've been talking. I've never seen one in real life. You've been talking about it.
Yeah, but it's tiny. There's no dock. This is just a power supply that goes straight.
Maybe that's wireless. I was like, yeah, because I was thinking that's an impressive battery that they squeezed in there.
It would be. Yeah, but see, it's kind of having a hard time melting the solder. I don't think it's really visible on the screen, but I can see a bit more what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you just got a bad one.
No, because this is the second one. Like this is my dad's, and then I had mine.
Oh.
And I thought mine was just a bad one, and then this one has kind of the same issue. I don't know. I'm also using a very small tip. It might be better with a larger tip. That's definitely possible. But yeah, I think the best bet is probably to go to your local variant of like eBay or something and see if you can find see if you can find like just a Weller or something like that for cheap. Because I think when you get when you get a real soldering station, the soldering station isn't really what matters most. The very cheap ones are usually a bit of a pain, but the most important thing, as long as it gets hot, is that you can get nice tips for it. With like a Weller or something like that, you definitely know what you're getting. But then again, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
You're just guessing, basically.
Yeah.
So what is left? What's left after this? Then there's the function buttons, and
So
then
there's function keys and encoders.
there's the encoders. Yeah, I keep forgetting the encoders.
Oh shit. There we go. Okay. There was another one that was not fully clicked in. I think maybe we can. I think maybe we should look at moving these holes a bit further out, because I have to bend the pins slightly to get them to snap in here, and then when I have to do that, it's easy to overbend the pins, and when they overbend, they don't snap. They don't snap in properly.
I remember those problems. So yeah, just moving the changing the footprint.
I think maybe considering moving the pads a bit further apart, or maybe just because I am actually able to snap them in, I think, without bending them. I just need to align them properly before starting, and use a bit more force. But yeah, because then another nice part of this is that the holes are also small enough that they definitely get aligned properly. Even with the alignment pins, it helps, and also they do actually stay snapped in when the legs are bent correctly.
Yeah. But yeah, I could see we can move them out a little bit.
I mean, at least so we've been going for 1 hour 20 minutes, it looks like, and we probably want to get soldering 1 down to at least below 2 hours, but I think we can maybe do that here, even with the talking, and
I think so. I think getting it down to an hour doesn't seem impossible.
Yeah, I think so as well. Especially if we're doing a few in a row and get kind of in the groove.
Yeah, we can do a bit of like assembly line stuff. It would be good to do some sort of assembly line and then some sort of validation at each step, if it doesn't add too much time.
I think I think we definitely need some automatic validation, or some validation systems afterwards. I think we're gonna have like a firmware for the MCU that specifically forces you to press all the buttons, and then for each one of them turns on the corresponding LED, so we can like go through, press all the buttons, make sure all the buttons and LEDs work. Because I think that's the main part, and then some communication test between the MCU and the Raspberry Pi, also to make sure we've flashed the firmware correctly, and something like that. I'm gonna have to set up a small test suite. I think Wallop's asking a question about something.
Yeah, it's about C++, which is great.
Hey.
Both of our favorite things. Talking about doing dev streams. It's which is definitely something to do. I have been. This is only the second stream that we've been doing, and it's been very hardware centric so far, because that's what we've been doing. But as soon as we get back to the software, we definitely want to keep doing these streams. I was thinking something that might be fun would be to design either a synthesizer or an audio effect
on a stream. Yeah. Are you still there? Oh, I think we lost him. That might be my fault. It's likely my fault. You still hear me, right? Yeah, I think it's probably my Discord client, but it sometimes acts up. Oh no, this has the potential to be a mess. Let's just see like that in Discord. Right, I think we're gonna be back in a second. And do you hear me?
Hear you.
Ah, nice. Okay. Yeah, my Discord did something. Let me just share my screen again. So
I don't know if we're still the stream still running.
I think the stream's still running, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's still working. Okay. Yes. So. Right.
Okay.
Someone's asking about kits. Or yeah, I think the plan is in the beginning we want at least we won't sell the parts individually, mainly because mainly just to try to keep it somewhat simple for us, but also to make sure that we can validate that everything works on each build and that we don't have to support or help people with their issues if they have any, and especially with something like that 50-pin connector. At least that took me a few tries. So I think if you're not used to soldering small SMD components, then that's gonna give you issues, stuff like that. So the plan is to just sell fully assembled boards in the beginning, and
not just boards, but mounted.
Oh right, yeah, fully assembled.
Mounted in boxes, like fully assembled products.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is mainly to keep things simple as at first, because I think we after doing a lot of this work, it just became clear to us how much extra work it is to maintain different versions of the hardware. If we have to be able to maintain like sourcing parts and keeping inventory of both assembled autos and half-assembled autos and totally blank boards or something, each one of them is like it adds exponentially.
Yeah. Yeah, and to answer what I think was part of the original question, yes, this is what we are gonna. This is the, at least if we stick to this version, this is what we are gonna have to hand solder for each of the units we sell. With a bit of practice and also just things like organizing the parts better. Currently, I'm picking out the keys from a box with a lot of different parts in it and stuff like that. I think we're hoping to get it down to an hour. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think the hardware design is not going to change much, we hope. And we definitely, as soon as we put these out here and people buy them, I mean, we intend, it's not like we're just going to one version later not support this. That's why we want to get this right first.
Yeah.
We want to get this right the first time, so we can keep supporting these beta versions.
Yeah. We would like to at some point switch from, currently we're using like off the shelf Raspberry Pi 3A pluses, which gives some issues, like you have to disassemble the unit to get to the SD card, which you probably won't have to do if we don't screw anything up. So like if an update doesn't break the installation or something like that. But so we'd like to use a Raspberry Pi compute module instead at some point, which is kind of made for being embedded in projects like this. Actually, but the organelle and the Norns also use that. And there are small things like that. We'd like to add battery management, just being able to use a battery at some point. But we actually have expansion headers for that, so you can buy that as an expansion and just click it on there. But yeah, none of these things none of these things will make be directly incompatible with the old version, even if we at some point add features like CV and gate or something like that, which we have no concrete plans for, but who knows. That we still just have to support this version, which doesn't have them. And also we have more expansion headers, so maybe we'll be able to design other expansion boards for this.
Yeah, that's true. And I think battery, when talking about new hardware functionality, I think the what I have in my mind at least is that we're going to get a functioning beta, then a lot of work on the firmware, get that running, and then hopefully sell a few of the betas, and then it's going to be the core software that's going to be focused for a while, to make sure people have something fun to work with and to squash any of the bugs that are there.
Yeah, because currently, even if we get what we currently have actually fully working, which there's still a lot of bugs and just missing parts of the system, that's still only the very basics of what we'd like to do. Like there's no sampler and sequencer. There's a partial implementation of some of that, but that's definitely the big next step when the beta is out. And we want to do a looper, and we want to do more and more interesting synths and effects.
Definitely.
And just play around with the software.
Yeah. And hopefully some of the people, our hope is that some of the people who buy the betas and get them in their hands are people who are interested in bringing ideas to the table about how to do the sequencing of the samplers and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we're definitely hoping that the beta testers will want to be involved in the design process as well. That's a big part of why we're doing this whole beta thing, and why we want to get a release relatively early in the process.
And then once we get back to hardware, I think battery management is going to be the first thing to look at.
Yeah, and especially because it can be done as like an add-on board to this. And then maybe we'll probably start producing the if we keep producing beta versions from there, or versions of this board, we'll probably add the battery management directly to the board. But that doesn't change anything for the user. It just means that it comes with battery module pre-installed, basically.
There might be some idea in selling that as a more of a DIY thing, seeing as batteries, shipping things that include batteries is, at least I hear, a real hassle.
Yeah. I think it depends on, I've been looking a bit at a Danish shipping company, or like shipping aggregator. It kind of depends on what they're able to do. I think UPS has like just a field in their shipping form where you can say, does this contain a lithium battery, and does it contain one mounted in some other product and something like that. But I don't think that field is exposed by the shipping app aggregator I've been looking at least. But yeah, so there's issues with that, and that's one of the reasons why we decided not to spend a lot of time designing that from the beginning. You're still there, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just looking at the chat, asking about a price range for the assembled betas. Yeah, I don't want to say that it's too early to ask, because I mean, I think it's not really too early to ask, but it may be too early to give an answer. I think we just don't want to promise anything that we can't keep later. That's the main thing for us.
I usually say somewhere below 600 euros, and yeah, but that's just because I think we can probably promise that, because I don't think it's really viable to go above that.
No.
But that's, I mean, that's just to be on the safe side. We're probably a minimum is probably gonna be it's probably gonna be above 300 euros. I think somewhere in that range is probably, but still not promising anything.
Yeah, I think, without promising anything, I think it's going to be in the 300 to 400 range, but
yeah,
we'll see. Maybe early 400s. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of the range we're hoping for. But it depends on a lot of things, and
there's some shipping, of course, that gets added onto that, but it also we're also still talking with the people who are going to make the boxes as well.
Yeah.
We don't have a deal set with them because we don't have the finished plans for the box.
Yeah. Wallop asks about SD card rot. So yeah, that's definitely an interesting point, and I think USB boot is. You say the new Pi firmware supports USB boot. I sure does that as well on the 3A board, because I think the 3A board has like a one-time set register. So like a register that you can write to one time, and then your Pi will permanently boot from USB instead of the SD card, which doesn't really help us. The USB is exposed, and we're working a lot on making the system so that the system boots from a read-only partition and stuff like that. So it shouldn't. I mean, the SD card can physically break, but the file system should be fairly stable. It's the hope, at least. And then we want to do firmware updates. I think we're gonna do them like just over. You just get a USB pen drive or something, and then plug that into the USB port and boot while holding some key or something like that. Yeah, it's definitely the SD cards are a big issue, and that's one of the reasons why we'd like to switch to the compute module as soon as possible. But as soon as possible means maybe at some point in the future.
Looking good.
Yeah, so that's the function buttons. I think one of them is, so that one is slightly off, but it doesn't really matter much with the function buttons.
I know they can be a bit
I do have to get better at it when it's not development versions anymore. There's also a lot of work that could be done in like the setup. We could make like stencils that we can pop all the parts into, or something like that.
I thought you were gonna say sweatshops. I was scared for a second.
Oh yeah, we could also make sweatshops. That's
a lot of this work could be made in sweatshops.
I have two smaller brothers who would probably work for like €2 per hour or so. Oh, we're gonna use the other encoders, right?
Oh yeah.
They are in another box, obviously. We could also do an office tour at some point.
Try a few different ones.
Yes, it's on this one. I'm just gonna use the Bourne's encoders. I can just demonstrate real quick on the prototype what the issue is with the Alps encoders. So this is the prototype. These are the function buttons. They're gonna have that's the holes in the front plate that I talked about. So the light comes through these icons.
So this front is going to be matte. So you can try and imagine that.
A bit like it's going to be the same the same finish as this one. But yeah, these Alps encoders hover like 2-3 millimeters above the front plate, which it isn't a big issue. It would just look nicer if they didn't. So that's why we bought some of these Bourne's encoders.
We can move the front plate further up because the keyboard buttons are in danger of disappearing below the front plate.
Yeah, exactly.
I always mess up these. Like whenever I solder on the encoders, I always mess at least one of them up. Like one of them gets put in, will end up crooked.
Oh, right.
I don't know. I'm not good with the encoders.
I think those footprints are also better here. They are pretty firmly snapped in. I don't think they were on the prototype. They're the same as on the last beta. So if that's what you're partially referring to, then
I still messed it up there.
Ah, right. Oh,
anyways, I think this.
I forgot the USB.
Oh, the USB B. This view of the board, it reminds me of the final touches of this version when we found out that the inductors were not not in stock, so we had to buy some that were like
two big ones.
Yeah, these two huge gray ones that are they're like 4 times the area of the other ones. Just higher power rating because the small ones were not in stock. So we had to rework an entire section of the board. Not for any reason other than just the supplier was out of stock.
Yeah,
I think
that's
I think that's just the that's just the reality of hardware design, is sometimes you have to do that.
yeah. Uh, yeah, uh, yeah, it's extremely annoying when you're kind of getting ready to getting ready to order, then suddenly you have to go back in and redesign the whole section.
But yeah, I think we got cut off while I was talking about it, but I think maybe the next, I don't know, maybe we'll do one more hardware stream, depending on what comes up. But yeah, if we can get back to software, I would like to do a stream with designing some sort of audio thing, either a synthesizer or an effect.
Yeah.
It would probably be a little bit, I mean, it takes a while to design one, so I would probably have some sort of idea about what to do beforehand. Then it could be sort of like the cooking shows where they have the things already lined up in the different bowls.
Yeah.
So like have a little bit of stuff prepared, and then we sort of put it all together.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I think that could be fun for people.
Yeah, I think that's some of the more because coding on a live stream is kind of it's kind of weird. I think too, if there are people who are actually interested in the code and some amount of familiar with it as well, I think it might be interesting, but it doesn't have the same visual appeal as soldering. But yeah, exactly, the design process of
yeah, I think it's the design process. It could be it's fun to see. It's fun to see it all come together.
Yeah,
I don't know. I made the chorus. I think the chorus that I made would have been really good. Ended up being a really neat design. Yeah, an acquired taste, is what Ole calls it. That's about right. And I'm not sure I have this. I'm just not sure I have the. I'm not just not sure I have the raw magnetism of Jason Turner to be able to captivate an entire audience with my coding chops.
Well, he's able to like sit down for 10-12 hour live streams, which
that's true.
I find these 2 hours more than enough.
Yeah, I'm not sitting down to port Doom to C++ anytime soon. Let's just say. Yeah, Ole is saying that it could serve as a hands-on presentation of the API and stuff. That's true. It would be a very, very good document to refer to for people when people ask, how do I make an audio effect for Otto?
Yeah, and that's
here's a 2-hour thing that teaches you how to do it, basically.
Yeah, and that's definitely something else I've been thinking about for live streams, because I think actually like sitting down and recording a video and editing it and all that is a lot more. Oh, there's a switch up. I forgot to solder a lot of the switches. Yeah, so just doing it in a live stream and having that available as a video might make sense. But I think we're also just experimenting a lot with it. The software live streams are also a lot easier to do. This camera setup took me all day basically. But I mean,
the audio is gonna be setting up. I should probably set it up with Jack, then it'll be easier.
Yeah. but it's I mean it's we're experimenting with it, and we definitely like some feedback on what people think works and what you'd like to see, and because I think a big part of it is also just answering the questions. I don't actually think watching me solder is the most interesting thing in the world.
But yeah, it would be maybe good to have, I don't know, for the interested people, just have some sort of video of like going over the whole structure as a user, like what's actually possible,
Yeah, because
what's
that's
implemented now and what will come in the future, that sort of thing.
yeah.
Because it's the kind of question that we've answered several times, and it's also written down places. But you know, I think when you're doing open source stuff, when it's just code for coders, basically, that's a different beast than this is, because this is also to a wider audience. So you can't just write technical documentation and assume that everyone reads that.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's not a lot of, and we do need to work on that part. But at least for now, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of all of the API documenting and stuff like that.
We really need to do that as well.
We definitely need to do that. But yeah, at least so far we've been able to avoid all that work, especially because the software keeps adjusting and changing. And,
yeah, that's true.
so
every time we write something, then you know there's a change pretty quickly. Can you try and put the auxiliary board over the
right?
If you're done with all the soldering, that is.
I'm nearly right. So this is basically. Let me just see if this is possible.
Maybe next time we should put the board over before soldering the function keys.
I think this one is giving issues. Yeah, look, that's it's really not a lot. That's, I don't think it's very visible. Oh, can maybe like that. Yeah, this one is just slightly misaligned or lifted over the board. Mm-hmm. That gives some issues. Oh, it's actually very visible if you look at it from above.
Yeah, it is.
Let me just see what I can do here. So which one was it? That right. I think that did something. And
I don't think I've ever been able to make those work.
I've had some amount of success, but yeah, not with these either. That's another issue with through-hole parts. They're a lot harder to work with when you need to change something.
Be nice with a heat gun.
Yeah, that's another
on the wish list, definitely.
Yeah, we're slowly trying to build up a proper workshop in the office as well, but still missing some things. Okay, I think that works.
Hey, there we go.
So what's left? Mounting the Raspberry Pi, and then the connectors between the headers that connect between the boards. And I think I think we're probably just gonna keep going. It's probably 15 minutes more, something like that.
Yeah, let's
If there's
just
any
do the
reason
last thing. Then
yeah.
then we've been going 2.5 hours, minus 17 minutes or how long we started late.
Right, yeah.
So
oh, there's also the microphone, but it's easier to mount that when the auxiliary port is on. Okay, so what does that leave us with? That leaves us with the headers that connect the ports, which, as mentioned earlier, there are some issues because I'm an idiot and ordered the wrong ones.
right.
But they can be adapted, provided I can find anything here. Oh, now of course I find some of the things I was looking for earlier. Right, it's none of that. So this is part of it, and then the
So what are you trying to do?
Right.
Make the
right now I'm just gonna solder on these.
those are
These are the headers that female headers that connect to the auxiliary board.
yeah.
And I think the easiest thing to do here is to just start by soldering one pin and then lining it properly afterwards. Another good thing about getting this camera setup working is that whenever this beta version is actually running, shooting the top-down obligatory synthesizer videos is going to be very easy.
Oh yeah.
I even have a fancy cork background.
So what color is going to mean recording for us? That's the big question. Actually, when doing these headers, I suppose they should be, because if you mount all the female headers and then put the male headers in and then mount.
That's the plan.
Probably need to put the board together, right?
Yeah.
Can't just do
exactly. But I have to do it this way around because these are SMD, even though the other ones are easier to properly align.
Are they the male headers on the auxiliary board? Are they SMD or are they through-hole?
They are through-hole.
And I feel like those should have been mounted first.
That's impossible.
Oh yeah, because that's the ones we.
Yeah, and also how would you get to these ones when they're actually plugged in?
Right.
There's not a lot of space.
Yeah, that's.
But yeah,
you could. I mean, they're all at the edge. You could put them together, and then you could solder like two of the outer legs, and then you could take them off and solder the rest.
That might work. I think we're gonna try that when we have the right headers. But for these, there's gonna be some.
Yeah. Now we got people talking about Jeremy Redmean's recording in the chat. I think he's been a difficult thing for all our wallets.
Yeah. It's definitely. I think that's the way you advertise in this business. We definitely need to get some units to some of these people.
True.
I don't know
It's a
if
very influencer driven business. We
which is great in the sense that I mean it's one thing that a lot of people have asked us about, like when we've talked to startup help things and stuff like that. Like if we need any help with marketing and stuff like that, and marketing is actually fairly easy in this business because you just
yeah, it's true.
as, at least as long as you're able to actually get some of these people interested. And of course, I cut off 4 instead of 5.
Yeah, I remember we got. That's a while ago, but we got. I think Andrew Huang made one tweet about us,
Yeah, that's
and
definitely.
that was like three days of asking answering questions for people.
Yeah, that's definitely the highlight of my life this far.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, and then this is what I'm gonna try doing here. I'm gonna try cutting off one side of this, and that worked. And let's try it again here.
And then to place 2 of them next to each other.
Yeah, exactly. That's the plan. So
Did you cut the side off, but leaving a little bit so they're not falling out?
for some reason they're not falling out. I also feel like they
That's
should be.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of chance they're gonna short.
But there's no way they're gonna short.
No, I guess not. If you
It's
that's true.
and as soon as they're soldered in, they're gonna stay.
Yeah. When they're
So
soldered in
it's
it,
just
it'll be all fine.
okay. Right. Yeah. So then from the top,
It looks like it was
right.
meant to.
Yeah. So just gonna try to make sure it's flat, and then this would
I
maybe
feel
be,
like
yeah. I think I'm gonna add the standoff first.
and if we're making lists of things to change, I feel like the female headers should be through hole as well.
This
Just
I
isn't it going to be
considered
easier to align?
Maybe I mean on the board I've already done the alignment was fine, so I don't think the tolerance is really that low.
Yeah, no, if it's easy and doable, then for sure.
Yeah, and at least over here, I think I actually ended up. Yeah, there's probably actually room for it right there to be through hole, but I'm not completely sure. These standoffs have some issues. I have to be very careful with screwing them in because sometimes they lock up completely, which is very weird. And then I can kind of fix them by I can't see anything visible in the threads, but
Oh, you mean the threads are they get jammed?
yeah.
Huh.
And then I can, if I just screw in something from the other end, I can kind of fix it like that. It's probably gonna happen here. So we should probably try to see if we can find some other ones.
Yeah.
There's also a slight chance it might be something with the combination of the standoffs and the screws. I don't know if there may be if maybe the thread spacing is wrong. I wouldn't think it should be, since I think there's two fairly standard M2.5.
Oh, is it? It's like M2.5 or something.
Yeah, but that's just the diameter, not the thread spacing.
Not Yeah,
or the
but I
pitch, I
feel
think
it.
they call it. And then I know there's like 0.4 and 0.45. I think one of them is more standard than the other. Kind of surprised me if that's wrong.
It might be that they're not fitting together. It could also just be that we're, I don't know, if we're buying too cheap stuff.
Yeah, it's also possible, but actually, I mean, these are from Mauser, I think, and
I mean, you would think that was pretty good.
at least not one of the cheapest parts.
I do have an anecdote about that from some friends at CERN in Switzerland, having their whole project shut down for months because they bought a cheap screw that where the head fell off when they tried tightening it. Which is not so bad. I mean, you can drill it out usually. The problem is this was at the end of a 1.5 meter long vacuum chamber, meaning they had no way to get in there, so they had to have uh, a specially made screwdriver that was extended for like 2 meters, so they could reach in there, and then they got it out, and then some sort of grabbing, and they grabbed it and twisted and pulled it out. They have it put on like a little satin pillow with a spotlight on it in the control room now.
That was a nice anecdote, even though I'm fairly sure it was just an excuse for saying the sentence "friends at CERN."
Well, I was never there. It would have been cooler if I was saying, oh, you know, back when I was working in at for CERN in Geneva.
That would have been a lot cooler.
That would have been a lot cool. I mean, what can I say? I have friends that are a lot cooler than me.
Yeah, I know.
We have 3 headers, right?
Just the two.
There's just 2. Okay. I think I lost count at some point.
Yeah. I also think we. Oh, that's why I don't do this. Sorry, man. I also think we changed it at some point.
Yeah, sounds right.
Through a few variants. I think even though this is some of the cheapest wig available, I think it's actually got some flux in it. Works fairly well.
Well, I mean, it's just copper wire that's woven together. I mean, don't know how much you can mess it up.
Oh, there's you can add flux or you can not add flux. That's the main
Okay,
thing, I think.
well, that's the main.
And it's surprising that this actually has flux in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the main difference. And then I think there can be a quality difference in the flux. But
Sounds about right, yeah. Tolerances for the encoders are looking very good. They're just spot on.
yeah, and that's because those are fairly easy to align, or at least they don't have like you can if they are aligned near correctly, they're aligned correctly. They're a lot harder to mess up slightly than some of the other things.
Yeah.
For some reason, I think the snap-in legs are larger and a bit better, and maybe the footprint has better spacing as well. Okay. It's not pretty, but I think
that's it.
Yeah, I think it's fun. Let me just see. Just bring out the other one. Very in focus, I know. Are those supposed to be connected? I'm just
not at that point, I think.
maybe. I mean, we're probably using multiple pins for power or ground, just because we had multiple pins.
Yes,
So,
that's
yeah,
true. I do remember that we did that. Yeah. I remember you. Yeah, you were.
Those aren't. Oh yeah, those two are. Those are both ground. Okay. Nice. Then that's not an issue. And then I think the rest is. It's a bit hard to see. But I think the rest is good. Yeah. Okay. I do also have a multimeter here, so I could measure it, but I'm just gonna wait until the other header is done.
Then it comes off.
I think I don't think we're gonna get this process down to 1 hour.
No. Even if we have all the things sorted.
Optimistic.
1.5.
Yeah, I think that might be likely.
All right, I can live with 1.5.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's we can work with that. So this one went a lot worse. Let me just see if I can. At least this process is all just because I ordered the wrong part. So that one only kept 3 of them, so I'm just going to manually add 2.
If any kids are watching, this is not how you're supposed to do hardware. This is like real galaxy brain shit.
Okay, and then let's see if we can do it better this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe it makes sense to cut it the other way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. Come on.
Yeah, I feel like it's.
Hey, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay,
all right, that went better.
This part, please work. Yes. Okay, and like that. Okay.
All right.
And
very cool.
see. Just right like that. And
That is quite satisfying, I have to say, having it all snap in
yeah.
place.
Um, okay, and now we should be able to. Damn it. Just see if I can.
What's going on now?
Two of them just. Just disappeared a bit too far down.
Right. Maybe while you do that, I will. Maybe a general comment is I think if you if you actually take classes and this stuff, I'm not sure this whole splitting it up into two boards and that sort of thing. I don't know if that's really the best practice.
I think it's. I, I think it's the only way to do it. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know how else we should have done this at this point, but
I think
yeah,
it's. I mean, and I know the Digitact uses two boards basically like this. It has like a ribbon cable between them, and
yeah,
it's basically the same configuration. One board holds the processor and the all the
yeah,
power management and stuff like that, and then one board I think holds the buttons also,
yeah.
but then the LEDs and the screen. And
I think you could probably make a fairly reasonable point that that the tolerances are very, very small, and like misaligning one thing, like we have two different headers, that sort of thing, which is to minimize mechanical stress, but it also makes misaligning just one thing a lot easier.
well, but also misaligning. I mean, if we misalign anything, that's gonna be an issue already. Um, just because of the encoders and the screen can't be misaligned and the buttons. I think it's just that the manufacturing tolerances just have to be fairly low.
Yeah, yeah.
The
No,
headers.
I'm just basically I'm wondering if if there was some other construction where that wouldn't make the auto 50% thicker, and then maybe have the buttons, all the buttons on the auxiliary board as well. So it's like
How do you mean making it that it makes it thicker?
because the buttons are taking up space. Like there is a minimum distance from where the buttons are placed to the front plate. So if we move them up to another board, it's going to be different,
Oh
right?
yeah, but I'm that's why I think this layout is what makes the most sense. I don't actually think there's anything really wrong with this layout.
No, I don't.
Um,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just still wondering if there's.
I think maybe the the connecting it with the headers is damn it, that's the tip went.
The tip finally broke.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's a Chekhov's gun thing. It was bound to happen.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, the headers aren't the most elegant solution. Um, they are the
Are not very.
most they are the most they are the like simplest solution in terms of parts that are easily accessible.
That's true.
Um,
It does make it so we don't have to bother with tiny like any more tiny FPC connectors, that sort of
yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Which we could do, but that's two more FPC connectors, one on each board that has to be soldered.
Yeah,
and they are easy to mess up.
they're easy to mess
Uh,
up, and I mean, I don't think there's actually any real issues with this
no,
construction.
I get if you just get the if you get the order right, so you don't end up with misaligned connectors. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if we're able to do it to some extent the other way around, add the through hole the through hole mail headers first, that's gonna help.
Yeah.
That's basically it. It's not actually fully it. There's two things left. Oh, if I,
There's the screen
yeah.
if you want to show how to
So there's the screen,
put
and there's
place the screen.
I think I'm just gonna solder a Raspberry Pi in there.
Yeah.
I
Those
have
are
I've received 5 of them now. So.
oh, that's cool.
And then there's another thing I forgot to order. We have these small headers are the same that is connect to the two boards, and they are used for the battery expansion board. And by default, that is without the battery expansion board, we have some connectors here that need to be that need jumpers to be connected. And I forgot to order the jumpers, which isn't a real issue because we also don't have the proper headers. So instead, I'm just gonna
Make a little
improvise a bit.
solder blob or something.
I'm just gonna make a nice little bridge.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I'm not really comfortable with making a solder blob of
No,
that
at the
size.
power stage.
Yeah, and especially like there's two different groups that need to be connected. So I wouldn't be sure that I'd be able to
Yeah.
connect them separately. So,
This is one of the things that I would not have before starting this. I would not have imagined that this would be such a difficult thing. But power management in general,
yeah,
it's such a huge issue.
yeah. A lot of it became so a big part of what made it hard was the Raspberry Pi, because the Raspberry Pi needs to, or at least the OTTO software needs to shut down correctly.
Yeah.
Which means when you flick the power switch, we can't just pull the power. We have to actually do some proper shutdown routine on the Raspberry Pi first, meaning the microcontroller has to receive the power switch state, then ask the Raspberry Pi to shut down, and then when it
Wait for an appropriate amount of time, and then
or some response from the Raspberry Pi that now
some watchdog thing.
now it's ready or something like that, and then actually pull the power and somehow notify the user that they can now pull the plug. But yeah, doing all that some people do that with MOSFETs controlled directly from the Pi, or just with like a big capacitor that gives it some time, which I think is actually a solution I like more, especially because that allows you to actually pull the plug. But it also requires probably a bit more of it requires you to be absolutely sure how long the shutdown takes, which is a bit harder in the context of even a small Linux distro.
A lot of things can happen.
Yeah.
If it was all done,
we can
like
probably reach
metal.
that point. Yeah. But it's hard to make sure that we avoid some process hanging or something like that. But for that, it also helps that the system, the root file system is read-only, so it should survive.
Even if something happens, I think we've taken steps at least to avoid any corruption.
The main issue could be losing your actual auto data, because that obviously has to be read-write. But we can do things there as well, like making sure, there are ways to do near atomic writes, where you do it in a transaction, start off by copying the file and then write to the file and then copying it back,
then,
like that.
And then the switch is atomic.
Right. And at least it lowers the amount of time to a very small amount, where something could actually go wrong. But yeah, then just the actual power, like the level switching, and we have like linear regulators and stuff like that is also just at least it's a big part of. I'm also just gonna mount the UART header, because then we might be able to actually see the Raspberry Pis are on.
All getting close to the end now.
Yep. Okay, for this I'm just gonna do something like that. It's not terribly important.
Yeah, well, I was mentioning that read-only should be enough for most problems, for most applications, and I think that's what we ended up deciding as well.
Yeah.
That now we have all your own data is, of course, read-write and can be lost.
Yeah, but the
in
whole
principle.
Oh fuck! Shit! Idiot.
What?
I was just holding the other end of the
Oh, you were holding
pin I
the.
was soldering.
Yeah, that's gonna be like 300 degrees in a second.
Okay, so let's not touch that leg, but the other ones. Damn it! I got so far without airbands.
Speaking of USB, not USB, the SD cards, we've been looking at SD cards as well. Just recently bought a whole bunch of them, which are 16 gigabytes as they say they are, but let's just say the read-write speeds are not as advertised. But we had some good intel on different cheap cards that are actually pretty close to keeping what they promise. So, I mean, that's at least a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think someone said that they were the most counterfeited item.
Yeah, the SanDisk.
The SanDisk SD cards, yeah.
Yeah, and the ones we got, I found a guide that had like things to watch out for, and one of the points were that real SanDisk cards have a serial number in the back, and often the fakes don't. So I checked that.
But we were never getting real SanDisk cards with those prices. Come on, we knew that.
Well, actually, the prices weren't that ridiculous. I think that was part of why we ended up kind of just taking a chance on it anyway. Because they were cheaper, but also, we were ordering them from China. Not, I don't remember the prices, but yeah. But yeah, it said the guide said that they real ones have serial numbers on the back, and they do have serial numbers on the back, but it happens to be the same serial number on all of them. So
Yeah,
which I
they
think
didn't
is
go
a
that extra mile of actually making them different.
um okay. I think that's basically it. Then I'm um just gonna pull out one of these.
But hey, there it is.
We're gonna have
I
so
think.
many of those boxes to throw away.
Sorry.
We're just gonna have to throw away so many of those Raspberry Pi boxes.
Gonna have to throw away a lot of Raspberry Pis. What do you mean?
Oh, just the boxes.
Oh, the
They
boxes,
come
right?
in
Yeah.
those fancy cardboard boxes that with.
I mean, I know what I'm getting my family for the next many Christmases. I don't know what, but I know that they will be fitting in Raspberry Pi boxes.
Yeah, I have like a whole shelf here with just. Actually, I have 3 shelves here with just with just empty packaging, because the one time I did have to send a package to Steven was right when we got in the office, and I didn't have any packaging, so I thought, oh, I need to make sure to save some packaging. Now I'm saving all the packaging.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's how the hoarder lifestyle begins.
yeah. It happened with that one. It locked
Oh,
up.
the thread
Yeah,
thread jam.
this one works.
But if it doesn't happen to everyone, then I don't think it's an alignment issue. I don't think it's a spec issue. I think it's a quality issue.
Yeah, I would think so as well. But it could be something where and that one as well, where the specs just nearly fit.
Yeah, it could be.
Could be something like that.
Like try the first one now,
Um,
because then I mean,
damn it.
gonna run out of spacers
There we go.
at this rate.
Oh, I don't. I usually don't throw them away. I just let them sit for a day or two, and then they usually work again. Or sometimes
Makes
it
no
helps
sense.
to just. I have a longer screw that I can. That if I screw that into it from the other end, it usually fixes the issue.
Right.
So let's try this one again. But the issue is also that it only happens from one end. So now I'm probably gonna mount this from the end where it works, and then we're gonna have the issue when I try to actually mount it to the board. But yeah, I think being very careful with it also helps. Okay, and then just add the Raspberry Pi, and
That does look very nice.
yeah, definitely does.
I like the cutouts in the main board for the USB and the Ethernet.
Yeah, and it's a very cool, just happy accident that that there needs to be 6 millimeters between these two boards, because the audio jack on the Raspberry Pi is the tallest thing. That's exactly 6 millimeters, and there needs to be 6 millimeters between the main board and the auxiliary board, meaning the whole thing just it all adds up to us only needing one type of screw and one type of standoff. Well,
Yeah,
we need other screws for the front plate and for the like for the PMs in the
yeah,
case.
for mounting it to the box and that sort of thing. That's a different story, but yeah, that's very nice. So how we made it a bit. What are we aiming for? It's like 28 millimeters in height, I think.
Something like that. I think there might be some issues with that that we might run into, but yeah, it's something around there. I think just a bit below bit below 3 centimeters
Yeah, yeah.
in height, and then it's 10 by 30 centimeters roughly in size.
Would be nice to get it thinner, but I think we're at the level where it's acceptable.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard with. I mean, we could, if we were able to make a very different design, I think we could
Yeah,
probably make it work. It would probably involve moving the function buttons up to the auxiliary board.
something like
Um,
that. We would need. I mean,
and
it would involve arranging maybe with the compute module something will be possible.
that might help, yeah. But that's
But
also
the
just
the
gonna
good
add more parts to the main board, so it might
that's
also.
true. The good thing about this is that it does leave, since the Raspberry Pi is the only thing at the sort of at the bottom level, it does leave space for a battery.
Yeah, and actually a fairly large one.
Yeah, so you
So
can.
that's
So when we get around to it, or if you feel inclined to do it yourself, then you can put a battery in there and hook it up if you find a way to do it. And
yeah.
there's a lot of space.
Yeah, there's space, and we have the expansion headers as mentioned earlier.
Yeah. So that would be a good after school project for
Speaking of which, let's break down the fourth wall, and I'm gonna go get. Ooh.
holy shit.
I'm gonna get. So this is pretty cool.
Oh, these are the screens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a oh, that's going crazy. Yeah.
Oh, and this is the office, by the way.
It's upside down.
Ah, oh, damn it. That's because I've had to flip it upside down. Right. Okay.
It's a lot of shaky cam. I think we'll show the office at a different time.
Oh yeah.
But I applaud
Uh,
the effort.
uh, yeah. We have well, this saying that the Raspberry Pi audio is shit without an external DC, and he's not wrong. That's why we have an external DC. Yeah, we use the, I forget what it's called, WM something 80 something, and
Yeah. The
I
tape.
think it's fairly, yeah, this is the double-sided tape for, I'm just trying to find the, for mounting the screen. Right, okay. Something like that.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah, in reality, I think it's when it's going to be, hopefully at least, it's going to be flush against the front plate, so it's going to be pressed into it. There's not going to be a lot of force on it.
Yeah, I thought so as well, but actually looking at it, I think I think there's going to be more force on it than we expected, or at least it's going to be more of a requirement to hold the screen down. Because there is some, and I think we gotta add a few more standoffs between the two boards, but there's some flex still in the main board.
Right.
Which makes the screen kind of it gets loose in the one end, especially because the connector is folded up under, so it's a bit thicker in that end. Okay, and I'm just going to add one like that as well. Okay, and then fold up the connector and make sure it's through there, and I'm just gonna have to kind of be able to look at it from above.
I think putting the outline on the silk screen was the right move.
Yeah, it's actually I think this one turned out fairly well also, and I think it's fairly easy like this.
Of course, we will do our best to deliver each auto still with the screen protector on, so you can get the feeling
this, folding this up through the.
So you will have the feeling of peeling that off yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not monsters.
I think that would greatly reduce the price we could ask.
Yeah.
It's like 80% of the enjoyment people are going to get out of this thing.
Is it the flux in there, or?
Yeah.
Right.
It's because the flux, I got it a bit too close, and then when it melts, it just it does what flux does, which is flow.
Flow everywhere.
I think that works. So then just fold up the connector and like that. Let's hope it does.
Very nice.
Let's just take a look at those connections again, just to be certain.
That is a very nice construction.
It looks fine, provided all of those in the middle are allowed to be bridged. The rest looks good, I think. Okay, let's try it then. I think that's basically it. So I have a few things here. Okay, nice. And then we have the so gray is ground. This is my UART connection. So you can see the serial console, and I think I'm able to also if that I'm gonna do something like this, and something like that, and then something like that, and like that, and does that work? Something like that. Hey, nice.
I get a got a terminal.
Then we should be able to do something like that. And let's also see if we can, if the screen turns on, and it might not, the other one didn't, and I'm not really sure if that was some other issue, maybe a software issue. Oh, I also gotta grab the SD card with the actual installation. Or if it was my connections there to the screen not working correctly. I think the latter is more likely. And let's see if this one's better. And let's also hope that anything powers on. And then I have two. These are the power override switches. I have to switch the, the Pi one on. Right, so the Raspberry Pi powers on. Oh, let's just get the E. Okay, and we do get backlight, and we do get an image, and it's upside down because we rotated the screen from the last. But yeah,
screen is upside down. But yeah,
that's the best we're gonna do in terms of actually showing something working. But that's more than. Oh, and let me just actually make it visible by moving that. But yeah.
Yeah. That's great. That is brilliant.
Oh.
Well, I will. I'll count that as a success.
Yeah. Yeah. Then the next thing that I'm gonna start working on. Oh, I forgot to solder the microphone, but I'm not gonna do that now. And yeah, then the next thing I'm gonna start slowly working on tomorrow probably is getting the MCU firmware running. I'm probably going to start off with just trying to verify that everything works on this unit, and look into why the screen doesn't work on the other one, and then getting the MCU firmware to properly communicate with the Raspberry Pi, because then I think, again, provided everything that's changed here works, then I think we might actually be able to, somewhere in a time frame of between a week and 12 months, be able to run the software in this.
Yeah. And I think for me the next step is I will take up the Fusion 360 files for the box, and I will start putting in the cutouts on that.
Yeah.
Doing it. I think I've kept it in a very nice and like parameterized way, so like dimensions can be changed automatically.
Yeah.
So, and I would like to be able to do that as well with the with the cutouts.
Yeah, definitely.
Or failing that, at least just having it having them as a group follow the dimensions in a good way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be looking at that.
I'm just gonna, for the end.
Oh, just for completeness?
Just because we once have a camera. I'm just gonna go through the 5 stages of the OTTO. This is the first prototype, and we do get a quick view of the inside. So this is the design that has become that, so you might say that has slightly improved. I'm not going to open the next one because
You're not going to open the next one? I mean, the next one is really cool from the outside. It is a mess on the inside, but
yeah, but it looks really cool, and um, the we have this acrylic cutout over the screen, which is uh, quite cool.
which is
But
super dope. I would
yeah,
love to
these
get that back.
yeah yeah these two are I think 2 or 3 years old, and yeah, they are very clearly very hand built. And then this is the prototype that we've been working with so far. It's most of the development has been done on this. It's a little over a year old, I think, and yeah, it looks very similar to this version. The internals don't really. A lot of this stuff has now been moved onto the main board, and
Yeah.
as you can probably
Yeah,
see,
the
it's
two
gonna
blue
be
boards there are the two blue boards are the MCU and the audio. That's an FE Pi audio card, respectively.
yeah,
So those are both on the main board now.
and then there's a Raspberry Pi here that I had to salvage because we ran
Yeah,
out. And then for complete, oh, and yeah, this is obviously the outer design is basically this. We've added more buttons, and just for space requirements, I think the encoders were swapped. And small things like that. We've moved these buttons over here, and but this is basically what the outer design will look like, just in a nice powder coated metal box. And yeah, then there's the prototype that's now a few months old. And this is close to the same hardware that we've just soldered, just on one board and with these LEDs instead, and a few other small differences. And then yes, this is the final one that can be seen here with the keycaps added as well. So yeah, hopefully we're not gonna make any major changes to this. There's probably gonna be some small errors that show up, but yeah, we hope to keep the main design and construction like this. And
yeah,
I think that's
cool. That's a nice recap.
Yeah, it's definitely cool having these all lined up on a shelf. But yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah, we've
thank you
been going
for
for 3 hours now, so I think it's good.
Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I think we've both had a lot of fun. Hopefully, it was fun to look at as well.
yeah, it's nice to have these going. Can't wait to start. Actually,
And we're definitely gonna keep doing it as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Right, I'm gonna try to see if I can find the end stream button. It's probably, I hope it's easier than finding the start stream button. But yeah, bye everyone.
Bye.